to the podium. Does this mic work okay for you? Can you hear me? Okay.
No,
Can't hear it? Let me move it up a little bit closer there. How's that? Okay. So let me go back to the first slide here to make sure I'm starting from the beginning. As I said, my name is Stan Shepard. I have worked for the Port of Seattle for about 20 years. I've managed the noise programs at Seatac. Wait, I guess about 12 years, 10, 12 years more in there. I can't be that long, but a few years there. Just want to give you a brief overview of our noise programs and tell you again what we're doing to reduce the noise at Seatac, where we're at with our mitigation programs, and what we're looking for in the future here. After I get done with it, it's not only a question and answer period, but this is a time for me to get the information from you on your concerns in the neighborhood. So I want to hear that information too. I have several staff that's here with me. Mike Carroll over here, Heather Conley, and Marco Milanese over here. And we would be happy to, you can talk to any of these people if you can't get a hold of me either, and we'd be happy to answer more questions. So we'll reserve that time afterwards to go through that. Just going to jump into the PowerPoint so we can get through this to the actual question and answer, which is, I know what you really, information that will be given to you. The roles and responsibilities, I think, is the one thing that I want to point out first of all. The Port of Seattle is the operator of the airport. We manage the airport facilities and the infrastructure. In other words, for the third runway, we built the third runway, we manage that third runway, and we manage the community noise programs. But we do not manage the air traffic at the airport. The air traffic is strictly managed by the air traffic control facility and the FAA. So they're the ones making decisions on the use of the runway. So we're going to talk quickly about the runway usage at the airport. And I'm going to go, for this first slide here, I want to just point out that we have been under runway construction on our longest runway. So you can see, let's see if I can get the mouse going here. This is our longest runway. This is the one closest to the terminal. I put the big red X's on there just to make the point that that runway has been closed for 6 months. Construction, taking it down to the ground and putting in an entirely new infrastructure out there. So what you've been seeing is, let's just see if this works here for me. Animation a little bit just to make the point. All the arrivals basically have been coming into the new runway. That's where the arrivals are. Departures off of the center runway. So what you've been seeing north of the airport and south of the airport with all of those arrivals going onto that third runway is kind of an unusual circumstance because that's not the way the airport is going to be operated once we open this runway. The runway was reopened last Sunday morning. It's going through recertification with the FAA right now, so they're doing some flight checks on it to make sure that the runway, the instrument landing systems on that runway are correct. Once those are correct, then they'll certify that for full operations. So you'll see a little bit change in the flight patterns once we do that. I'm going to turn it over to Linda to explain the runway use of how it will be once that runway is open. I can do this.
Working. Thank you very much, Stan, for inviting me tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to all of you. I'm one of the managers, one of 4 managers at the TRACON, which is right here in Burien. We have. Okay, is that better? Okay, so we have right here in Burien is the TRACON, is what we call it. That's the Terminal Radar Approach Control. It's a building that, if you go into the actual operation quarters, completely dark, and controllers that work there, and they're working at radar scopes and talking and directing aircraft. So I've been with the FAA for 25 years. I was a controller when I started, and I've been in management now for about 10 years. Okay? So this is our normal runway usage plan. Keep it in mind that there's a lot of factors that can affect the runway usage. Arrivals during low demand will be arriving on the center runway, 16 center for south flow, 34 center for north flow.
Can you explain what north and south flow is? I can do it for you real quick. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so when we say south flow, that means that we're landing on runways 16 left, center, and right, and also departing on those same runways. That's the direction that they're going on 160 heading.
Depending on winds.
Right.
So generally in the summertime it gets a little bit warmer and the winds come out of the north. Aircraft usually have to take off and land into the winds, so you'll see a northbound flow in the summertime. Wintertime it gets a little bit cooler. Generally you can say we're in the southbound because the southbound winds are coming, so you'll see that south flow.
Okay, and in this scenario for the normal runway use during low demand, departures will be taking off runway 16 left. Okay.
I lost my runways.
Lost your runways. So during lower visibility and high demand periods, when we are forced to use 2 runways for arrivals to mitigate delays, meaning in order not to delay the aircraft coming in, we're going to be arriving on 2 different runways. We're changing it around a little bit. The arrival is going to come into runway 16 left and runway 16 right. That's the south flow we're talking about. And the departures will be taken off runway 16 center. There is going to be some miles and trail required for the arrivals on runway 16 left, and that's due to aircraft being able to cross the runway that have either landed on runway 16 center, they have to cross to come back to the terminal, or for the departures that are going out to depart runway 16 center. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, miles and trail, that's a good point. That just means that our standard is generally 8. So that means that aircraft lining up for runway 16 left need to have approximately 8 miles between them so that we can cross the departures going to the center runway and cross the arrivals that have landed on the runway 16 right and need to get back to the terminal. Okay? And then the same type of scenarios if we're in north flow meaning we're landing runways 3, 4, right, center, or left, and departing as well, that same runway, same exact type of configuration.
Overnight.
Overnight would be in the first configuration I described, which is arrivals to runway 16 center and departures runway 16 left.
Very little usage of the new runway during the nighttime hours. In fact, I think we've seen maybe 1 or 2 a month prior to closing the other runway for construction, so very little usage.
Right, and that's an important thing to know, that the runway was closed for so long. And so what you have been seeing recently is not normal for 3 runways.
Okay, I think that's it. Be fun as long as I don't hit it. What I would like to show you here, and the point I want to make with this slide is the Seattle region is extremely busy with air traffic. So when you look to Seatac Airport and you think that we can change one thing at Seatac Airport and change these aircraft to fly in a different area, it takes a whole system plan to change one area of air traffic. So it's I think we handle, if you're on this, probably how many aircraft per day? I think it was like 2,000, I think. Okay, yes, I have that one, but I don't remember right now. But there's a lot of aircraft operating out there. And each one of these flight tracks actually represents one aircraft flying within the 24-hour period. So it's all airports. And what you'll see is let's see if I can get back to the mouse here also. The red are the arrivals into Seatac. This is, of course, for the south flow. For the north flow, the red are arrivals. And the green are the departures out of the airport. So it's a lot of aircraft we're handling around here. If you would have just looked at the Seatac Airport traffic, I pulled all the other traffic away from that just to show what we're doing at Seatac Airport for arrivals and departures. This is typically what you would see in a 24-hour period for those aircraft. And this is jet aircraft only. No, actually, this is all aircraft here.